So yeah, the first thing that I want you to do then is to go to Google Classroom. Right now in the stream, the link, the post that has the links for downloading the software that we're going to use is right on top. Click on that. And as it explains here, for this assignment, we're going to use 2 pieces of software. I assure you that both of these are very safe. You don't have to worry about them. They also have no cost. They're free. They're open source software, meaning that the people work on them, put them out there for anyone to download, edit, and their quality control is the people using it reporting back to them whenever they've had problems. The first one there is GIMP, which stands for the New Image Manipulation Program. It's a bunch of computer coding nerds who decided to stick it to Adobe and make an almost perfect Photoshop clone. So if you click on that one, it's going to take you to this download page. The download page is pretty good at detecting what kind of computer you have. So it'll say something like, we think that you have Windows. And you can just click here to download GIMP directly. We'll install that in a moment. The other piece of software we're going to use is Shotcut, which again is an open source video editing program. Again, completely safe. The people at Shotcut aren't trying to put a virus on your computer. It's also pretty good at figuring out what kind of computer you might have. But if it doesn't say Microsoft Windows here, click on Microsoft Windows right there. And we're going to want the 64-bit version. And any one of these will work as your downloader. The reason I said on the GIMP one to do the download directly is sometimes BitTorrent, Bethel's Wi-Fi wants to block those. Bethel's network, that is. Not because again, that GIMP is going to do anything bad to your computer, but a lot of people will be using BitTorrents and things to download things like, pirated movies or porn. So the school blocks a lot of those. It just sees that, that's a BitTorrent. You can't have that. Once those download, go ahead and click on one, or probably just start with one of them rather than trying to get both installations going at the same time. Pick one, click on it, open the setup installation, and get it going. All right? I'm going to pause my recording and then come around to see what you guys are doing. Recording again. Yeah, all right. So while you guys are getting things downloaded and installed, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. For one, I'm going to have you guys make a folder on your, now I'll just show you how that's done later. I'm going to have to make a folder on your desktop specifically for you to put everything in that we're going to use for this assignment. Your video files, your image files, anything that you download. So it can all be in one place, easy to find. Then, between now, it would be best if between now and Friday, why did I open that up? That's not what I meant to do. You could already have your recording of the reading done. Now, even if you don't like how the recording goes and you plan to record it again, having an actual piece of video that we can work with would be nice to have on Monday. And this one here, I just shot with my phone to show that you don't need any sort of fancy equipment to do it. Now, the thing that I use to hold it in place and point it down, I'm willing to let any of you borrow should you want to. But I'm just going to kind of pull this up and then talk a little bit about what I was doing and what I was thinking about as I did it. So first off, like I said, I've got my phone like hanging from, or not hanging from, but on a little arm that can allow it to point down, which allowed me to frame my book in the frame of the video quite nicely. If you need to borrow that from me, fine. If you've got something of your own, I know a lot of people have something, a selfie stick or whatever that they can use for holding their phone in place. Or if you don't want to use your phone, you'd like to borrow a camcorder, I don't mind lending you a camcorder. Now, I'm not saying the name of the book, the title of the book, or the author, because I know that I'm going to have that other video where I introduce it. So I didn't worry about reading that here. It's hard to tell because there's already buzzing in here. But the video, because I was shooting it in my office, picked up on the buzzing of the lights. If you've got a lot of noise in yours, we can talk about some ways of reducing noise.
My hat is gone. I want it back. Have you seen my hat?
So one thing I want to kind of point out is, should you want to, because we're gonna talk about ways of going and finding royalty-free music and sound effects. So if as you're reading this, or as you're deciding like how you plan to read it, you're like, you know what, a particular sound right here might be interesting, then go ahead and kind of pre-plan for that. I know that I want to have a particular sound happen when I turn this page. And so when I do...
What does your hat look like? It is red and pointy and...
I pause for a few seconds before I actually read what's on that page. Because I'm like, because I want to have like a ba-boom or some kind of sound effect that I'm going to put in there at the moment that he has this realization that he's seen his hat. I'm also thinking, because this all kind of takes place in the woods, that I want to find like a nature sound, just the sound of like trees and the breeze and whatever, birds chirping. And so I'm kind of taking a slow pace about my reading, thinking that in between there'll be the sounds of like birds chirping and what have you. So when you're reading yours, if you think you come across something where you're like, you know what, this might be kind of a fun place to put in an extra sound effect, that is, you could pause for a moment, give yourself some space to do that. All right? So that's what I have right now. I've just got my video that I shot on my phone. It used to be that phone video looked like crap, but not anymore. You know, phones or videos coming off of cell phones look pretty good, just as good as a camcorder these days. So you're perfectly welcome to use yours. All right. Do we all now at least have GIMP downloaded or installed, that is? A nod or a shake of the head, so I know. You do not, is it what you said? Oh, you do. Okay, all right. All right, well then open it up. The very first time you open it, and I just recently updated to the newest version, so I would have what you guys have. So mine's kind of going through this too. It's going to take it a little while, because it's accessing everything it needs access to. All right? When you open it up, if you click to, have it fill the screen, this hopefully is what you're seeing. A big open canvas in the middle. Over here on this side should be a set of tools. We'll talk about what these tools are. And if I click on one down here, I should get the options for how to use that tool. Right? And then over here, normally GIMP puts the brushes up here, like a little menu of brushes. And then down here, if you're not seeing your layers, like if it doesn't show a thing here that says mode and opacity and things like that, then let me know, because we need something different there. We need to put your layers here. You should see something that says like mode and it has a drop down. Well, it's not dropping down because there are no layers yet, but it should look like this. Okay, I'm going to take the silence as, yep, I've got that. Okay, all right. Now, so here's what we're going to do with this. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. First things first. Let's go back to the desktop. I can't remember how on Mac you make a new folder on the desktop. And for those of us in Windows, right-click on your desktop, come down to New and Folder, and give this a name that'll make sense to you, whether it's read along, or read aloud, rather, or if you want to call it the name of your book, whatever. All right? And now this is the folder where we're going to save stuff. All right, then now let's go back to GIMP. All right, so we need to make our title card, right? Our title card should let us know what you're going to read, who wrote it, who illustrated it, who you are, what have you, right? So the first thing we need is an actual canvas on which to do that. So if you go up here to File, up here in the corner, and click on New, or as it says here, Control-N, or I think in the case of Mac, it might be Apple-N. Click on that, and it should by default, because GIMP knows that a lot of people are using this to make things that are the size they need for a video. 1920 by 1080 is exactly the size you need it to be in pixels. Down here, however, like if we click on the advanced options, rather than 300 pixels per inch, which is the resolution here, let's change this to 96. The reason being is that this is going to go on a video screen. And if this is trying to make this at 300 pixels per inch, it can sometimes have some stretchy problems, right? And then hit OK. And it's going to give us this nice 16 by 9 screen that it's in high def, because 1080 by 1920 is, I mean, it's not 4K high def, but it's high def, right? And what you shoot on the video that you shoot on your phone will most likely be 1080 by 1920. All right, cool. So now we have something onto which we can build our title card. And over here in the layers, you'll notice there's now a layer here that's called background. All right? Layers can literally be thought of as like the layers of a cake. All right? And so right now, the background is the only layer we have, and it's on the bottom. If we put anything else on here as separate layers, they'll get stacked on top of that. So that if we put something on top of this, and it's as big as the background, it'll completely cover up the background because the background's underneath it. Scale it down some, and we'll still see it without it being obscured, but it will allow us to see some of the background that's behind it. Well, first off, let's just decide on a color for our background. All right? This is going to be pretty simple. Over here, you've got a black and a white square right over here. And if we click on that black square, it's going to pull up this thing right here that allows us to choose colors. You can on this little slider right here, slide up and down the spectrum from red on one end through magenta, violet, blue, cyan, green, yellow, and eventually back to red. So you can put this sort of in the color range that you want. So let me say I want my background to be kind of yellowy. All right. Then you can click and hold in here and move this around, and it's going to add white, black, or gray to your color, depending on where you want it. So you're essentially making either, if I'm over here, I'm making shades rather. If I'm going this way, I'm making tints of it. And if I go this way, I'm making tones because I'm adding gray to it. So find your color. Once you have it, this little arrow button that you see right here, click on that, and it'll add it over here to this little palette of colors. I've got a whole bunch here because I do a lot of stuff. You probably don't have any other colors in this palette. Right? And then hit OK. And now you'll see that that square is the color you just picked out. All right, now I can fill in this background in a couple of ways. Those of you who are on a Windows desktop, if I hold down Control and press the comma key, it will fill it with whatever the foreground color is. That's the color that I just changed, this one. And if I hit Control, or hold down Control and hit the period, it will fill it with whatever the background color is, which in this case is the white. The other way I could do this is over here in all these tools. There's one right here. You'll see it looks like a bucket of paint that's being tipped. And if I hover over it, it says Bucket Fill Tool. Oh, by the way, I forgot about this. Your icons may look a little different than mine. Because I like mine, I go in my settings and set them at symbolic icons. But there's one that should look like a paint can that's being tipped. If I click on that, and then click over here, it's going to fill with the foreground color. Now I'm going to want to put some text on this. So the first thing is I'm going to think about a color that I want for the text. So what I'm going to do over here, you see these little arrows that point right here next to these two squares? I'm going to click on that so that I can put the yellow color back there. And then I'm going to click on this white square and decide on a color that I would like to use for my text. And on my book, the text is either red or black. So I think I'm going to grab a red color. But it's kind of an orangey red. So I'm going to scoot this into orange. And I want it to be a little darker. Maybe about right there. I'll click OK. Understand that what we do right now, if you don't like it, it doesn't have to be your thing. I just want to show you some stuff so that you know how to make it on your own. All right? Now, over here in all of our tools, there's one that should look like the letter A. And if I hover over it, it says Text Tool. Click on that. It opens up this dialog down here, which has the color there. It should have up here where it says Font. GIMP should have accessed all of your fonts that you have on your computer. You can pick out one that you would like to use for this. I'm looking for one that feels like it would kind of match what I have on my book here. I bet if I went to the Gill Sans family, it would work. Let's see. Maybe Gill Sans Condensed. All right, so click on whatever font you think you would like. Now the size, this depends upon the font itself in a lot of ways. But you can kind of assume whatever number is over here next to size, that's how many pixels tall your letter will be. We can change this later. Knowing that I'm going to be typing onto a pretty high definition image here, I'm going to crank this up. I'm going to say maybe double that 60 that I had, and I'll go up to 120, and I'll see if that's going to do the trick. Down here where it says justify, you can left align it, you can right align it, you can center it, or you can make it where it fills it and it goes to either side of your box. All right? I'm keeping mine on centered. Everything else we're going to leave alone. All this down here should just say 0.0. Okay? And I'm just going to click over here somewhere because I can always move the text later. So I'm just going to click here, and it will give me a little box. And I can just start typing in. And I'll say, I'm going to put my caps lock on it. I'll say, I don't know, Mr. Jason, not with two S's, reads, ... Because I'm going to want I want my hat back to be in a different font, maybe a little bit bigger. If your font is too big or too small, click in here, highlight it, and right up here, you can change the number. For me, I think this is just right. But let's say I wanted it to be bigger. I could go in here and say, make it 200. Or I could go in here and say, I want it even smaller, make it 70. I'm going to take it back to 120. Then when you're done, you can just kind of click out here somewhere, or you can click on a different tool, and it'll get rid of all that you had going on. Okay, all right. So now, up here, one of our tools looks like a crosshair. It's got, up and down, side to side. It should be up in the very upper left corner there. And it looks like a little cross. And if I hover over it, it says Move Tool. You want to click on that when you want to move anything. Now, when I click on it, you see this drop-down pops up down here. And right now, what's highlighted is Pick a Layer or Guide. Well, over here, you'll notice now you have two layers. You have your background layer, and you have the layer that's made out of that text that you just typed. So if I have this set to pick a layer or guide, then it's going to move whatever I happen to accidentally click on, or intentionally. So if I accidentally clicked on the yellow part instead of the text, it's going to move that. If you ever do anything that you don't want to do, you can always hit Control-Z to undo it. In your case, it's Command-Z. Or you can go to Edit and Undo. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to make sure that I have my thing here hovered over the text itself and not my background. And I'm going to take this and move it to where I think I would like it to be. Maybe just there. Right? And now I'm going to do another one. I'm going to click on text again. This time, I want my color to be black, so I'm going to pick black. I know I want this to be bigger than 120, so I'm going to go maybe 200. But I can change it if I need to. Click in here, and I'm going to type in, I want my hat back. Again, your font can be whatever you want your font to be. I'm going for one that I think looks kind of like what's on my book here. There are plenty of free websites with fonts that you can download as well, if you want to download one that's kookier than anything that you might have on your laptop. And then I can take this and I'll put it where I want, which is sort of like right here, perhaps. Boom. So here's what we're going to do right now. We're going to save this so that we've got a file that we can go back to if we need to. So underneath File, we can go to Save, or like it says right there, you can click Control-S. Right? Save it. Go to your desktop. Wait a minute, where'd it go? There's my desktop. Find that folder you just made. What did I call this? I called it Read Aloud. There it is. Now, what you're about to save is not the finished image. This is going to be a file that only GIMP can open, so that it'll have all your layers in it. You can change anything that you want to, but you can't use it as an actual photograph yet. All right, we'll talk about how to do that later. So when it says right here, this .xcf, you need to leave that. That's the file extension that GIMP needs. But we can change the title of it. I'll just call this title card. You can call it whatever makes sense to you. And then click to save it. And now if I go to my folder, there's that file that I just made right there. Now, the reason I wanted us to go ahead and save it right now is so that we'll be able to come back to it. We're not going to close GIMP yet, but just in case something goes wrong, I wanted you to be able to come back to this. So now what I want you to do is just open up whatever web browser you use. Let's go to Google. And what we want is an image of the cover of our book. So I'm going to type in the title of my book. I want my hat back. And type cover. You do the same thing. Whoop, that should be back now. Type the title of yours and type cover. Then when you come to this, we're going to click on images up here at the top when your results pop up. Right? You should have, hopefully, lots of images of the cover of your book. We'll click on one. I'll click on this one here. That's actually a good size. All right, anybody here, or is anybody not here, rather, where you have searched, you've gone into images, and you've clicked on one of your images in the results? Okay, all right, so over here, what we're going to do is right-click on the image. I don't know if this works the same in Mac or not. I'm not sure. But if I right-click on it, I get a bunch of options here, one of which is to open the image in a new tab. Do that. Did you figure out how to do it on yours? Okay, good deal. And so now I have this image, which I could right-click on and go to Save Image As, or I can shrink this down a little bit. Come on, over here. And let me shrink this down as well. Open up here's my file folder that I call it Read Aloud. I can click and drag this right on in here, and boom, now I have it. Or like I said, I could right-click and I could go to Save Image As. I could find my folder on the desktop, and I could download it that way. So now then, I can go back to GIMP. I can grab my folder, grab that image I just downloaded, and drag it right here. If yours over here on the layer name, if it says floating section or floating selection, click on it and then click on this little thing down here that's got like a plus sign. If it doesn't say that, then you're good. But like me, you might have one that's way too big. Now, in your case, it opened it in a different thing. Did you drag it directly onto that? Okay, all right. Yeah, just pull up the folder and drag it out of your folder right onto there. All right, is there anybody who does not have now a layer that if you have the move tool, you could click on and move it around? Okay. Now, if like me, it is too big, because mine is really, really large. It looks like in the case of yours, Kalani, it's a perfect size. then I need to scale this down. Or maybe yours is a little small and you want to scale it up. The thing is, you don't want to scale up too big. If you've got a really tiny one, you don't want to scale it up really big because it'll just get blurry. But scaling down, it'll always look just fine. So here's what I need to do. Over here in our tools, there's one right here that has like a little rectangle and an arrow that points to a big rectangle. And if I hover over it, it says Scale Tool. All right, so I forgot about that. I forgot that in one of the most recent versions of GIMP, they grouped all of the tools together. So my apologies. I'll try to remember to put up like a video to change your icons to look like mine. All right, but now that you have that, if you have that scale tool going, you click on your layer here. Make sure that that layer is selected. It should be the one that's highlighted. And then we can scale this down by clicking and dragging. Oh, hang on. Whoop. We want to make sure that this right here is closed. This little chain link, so that it will keep its dimensions, its proportions. All right, I know we're getting close to our time here. Okay, all right. My apologies that that took as long. So, a couple things I now know, and I'm sorry, I see we're past our time. Save this. Close GIMP. We'll be able to come back to this later. And you can also go and play around with it on your own. So, I know we're past our time, and I'm sorry. Let me talk about a couple quick things. Remember, between now and Wednesday, it would be nice if you could record your video. Even if you don't like it when you're done, you're like, I would re-record this. That's okay. You can later. But something that you can use for when we practice the video editing. And then after you record it, however you get it from your phone to your laptop, put it in that folder that you made. Right?